focus on and to celebrate at the end of this month.
Yes.
Many good things you've done for this family.
That's one of the topics that we're not discussing. We're not going to ruin everybody's
Exactly.
evening.
But I look around the room, and of course I see people to whom Phyllis Mandel has been a mentor, a friend, a teacher, a colleague in business or research or the adventures of life. And I know that every one of you in your own personal ways already know many things about the person we're here to honor and have some version of the stories that I'm about to tell, which she alluded to briefly in her comments. Of course, to me, Phyllis Mandel's been all of that, in addition to being my mother. Talk about personal.
What makes a child unlucky?
What can you say when Phyllis Mandel is your mother? I recently scanned, actually, a whole bunch of family photographs. And the story that you see there is amazingly and wonderfully typically American. Formal portraits in the 20s and the 30s. In the 30s, my grandfather got his first camera and began taking a lot of families' photos, as well as a lot of self-portraits. Pictures of an immigrant family in the Depression, although they never looked quite as poor as Mother made it sound like she grew up in. Making their way wearing beautiful clothes, but barely concealing their concern for the people they left behind. By 1953, you see the pictures, again, probably 64 years ago tonight, of Phyllis's 16th birthday party. A beautiful young woman in a beautiful dress blowing out her candles. Her father is just off to the side, barely out of the frame, but he has this old world look that seems to wonder, how did we come this far, this fast? 5 years, a college degree, and many glamorous photos later, and there's a wedding to a promising young engineer. Who here was at the wedding? Joy was at the wedding. Joy was at the wedding. Joy was at the wedding. By 1960, there are sailboats, tennis, Lake Placid, apartments and houses with stylish mid-century furniture, all of which we still use today. Less in the pictures, but equally present, is the work with the Great Neck Committee for Human Rights, literacy tutors, always the teaching, teaching, teaching. But as a child growing up, of course, I had no such perspective. All I knew was this was my mother, and it was the only one I had. Most of the time she was nice, and sometimes she was really a pain. She's still trying to get me to eat my beets, I noticed. We received all the nurturing and love that any child could need. And if there was one way to remember our house growing up, again, it was the teaching, teaching, teaching from both of our parents, always teaching. I remember well reading the first issue of Ms. Magazine when it came out in 1970 with Wonder Woman on the cover, and every issue thereafter. Interesting to note this week the passing of Mary Tyler Moore at the resonant age of 80. When her character, Mary Richards, was the independent single woman making her career in the 1970s, Phyllis was at home, chained to two horrible children in suburbia. But, and allow me to brag a little bit here, Phyllis was going further than Mary Richards. She was working on her doctorate. 1977, the year the Mary Tyler Moore show went off the air, Mommy became Dr. Mommy. When Reagan-era corporate merger mania led to economic hard times in our house, Dr. Mommy stepped up and started her own business. That, to me, is what feminism has always looked like. Although now it also looks like Mommy conducting 200 people on stage. Within a few years, Marvin was doing the back office work, the spreadsheets and the bills, enabling Dr. Mandel to blossom again in what she excels at: teaching, teaching, teaching. Teaching reading, teaching writing, teaching speaking. That successful business led Marvin and Phyllis all over the country and the world for a couple of decades. Very happy time for all. As the child of an engineer and the teacher of writing, this teacher of writing is of course no coincidence that I became an engineer and a humanist. For a decade or more, my mother and I published books on a seemingly coordinated schedule. We read each other's drafts, discussed the ideas on late-night phone calls, and celebrated nearly simultaneous book publications.
Do we need to mention comments like, how could you make such a stupid spelling mistake? Right for right.
That was what I would say. Let's see what she would say. But more recently, as I got married and had two remarkable little people of my own, of course I came to appreciate the greater depth of what Phyllis knows. That she takes great joy in babies and children I always knew, and I felt directly as a lifetime glow. But she also always told me, and now I agree, that children are not only fun, they're actually incredibly interesting. More recently, I'm reminded of just how much Dr. Mindell knows about language, reading, writing, and child development. Which sounds, which letters, which ways of reading and writing they focus on, and when. Perhaps more important, having raised the two of us, she's followed the growth and development of so many children of the people in this room, many of the people in this room, and has that broad depth of experience, real deep life caring experience to draw on as she counsels every one of us, a true matriarch. So here we are doing another of Phyllis's favorite things, at which she also excels, celebrating. On a birthday card many moons ago, I think it's still on the refrigerator, I wrote, Phyllis is the ultimate existential girl from Brooklyn. Life is too short, cruel, and uncertain to live with less than perfect wallpaper. But of course, when you have perfect wallpaper and great birthday parties, life is still uncertain and may even be short, but thanks to your spirit, Mother, it is not cruel. Thank you, Mother, for teaching us, teaching us all that life is a wondrous and interesting celebration. You are my hero, and my mother, and my role model. Happy birthday.